Good evening and welcome to the Hobbs Boys and Girls Club for the 2024 Lee County Primary Candidates Forum from Noalmark Digital and One Radio Square, broadcasting live on HobbsAmerica.com, the Z94 KZOR Facebook page, and the Lee County News and Sports Facebook page. Now we bring you live to Dawn Morgan, our moderator for this evening's event.
Thank you very much, TJ Miracle, and welcome in. We appreciate your watching. We have brought together all of the candidates in the opposed races in the upcoming June primary on the Republican ballot. There were no Democrats that had races with opposition, so we are bringing you, and happy to say that everyone who is invited has said they would be here. They are here and ready and waiting. We will take each race one by one, starting with the way that they are on the ballot. We will have the New Mexico Senator 42 race. We will have the Representative District 62 race. Then we will have the Lee County Commission District 1 race and finish up with the Lee County Commission District 5 race. So all of the candidates are here. We welcome them. We say thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much for watching. And we hope that you will be informed and enjoy. And most of all, we hope that if you have not voted, that you will vote. Early voting is underway, and we hope that you will cast your ballot and make your voice heard. And we'll get started right away. We have our New Mexico Senator, District 42, Steve McCutcheon, and we will start with questions. Each candidate gets the same questions, by the way, and I'll let you know about the time limit that each candidate has to finish speaking and respond. So we start with question number 1 with a 2-minute time limit, and this goes to Senator McCutcheon. Please explain who you are and why you want to keep this job.
Dawn, thank you so much for having us here tonight. We appreciate the forum and the opportunity to speak to a wide audience. As stated, I'm Senator Stephen McCutcheon. I'm from District 42 here and have been for quite some time. Grew up right here in southeast New Mexico and know the ins and outs of the various industries and the things that are here from having grown up and participated in a lot of those industries. You know, what we've been doing, Don, simply over the last several years has just not been working. I've been in there for about 6 months, and being up at the legislature for one session, we've had a whole lot of success. You know, I was able to get $70 million for Highway 128. We know that that is the critical highway that feeds not just southeast New Mexico and Lee County, but the entire state. And so to claw money back from Santa Fe for that road is a big feat, but it shouldn't be like that every time. You know, we've also carried legislation that was going to bring $25 million back to the city of Hobbs after they were damaged from the destination tax sourcing. And it's important that we make sure that in this area we get the money back that we need and send to the state, because we get so little back. Also, I've been the first to draft meaningful border legislation, the first border legislation that's been drafted by a Republican in the last 10 years, and we've got that prepared for this upcoming session. I think we'll talk a little bit more about that here shortly. But why do I want to keep the job? Because in the last 6 months, I've earned the job. And imagine what we can do in the next 4 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now question number 2 is, and we allow 5 minutes to answer this question, what are the 3 biggest issues New Mexico is facing, and what will you do about them?
So I would kind of lean in on my previous answer and start out with border security. We've drafted 3 bills currently. One of the bills is going to outlaw sanctuary cities. Another one of the bills is going to add murder charges for fentanyl dealers. And the third, and probably the most important bill, is going to bring resources to local law enforcement so that they can try and secure the border here in our own counties. The reason that we've had to go that route is because the dereliction in Santa Fe and their lack of movement and doing anything on the border is just astounding. So we want to take legislation and make it possible for our local law enforcement to be able to do seizures, interdictions on not only drugs and fentanyl and things like that, but also human trafficking. We know that there's a whole lot of things, and Santa Fe is turning a blind eye to what's happening, and we cannot simply do that anymore. So border security is going to be my first one. The second one that we're gonna most certainly focus on is setting the narrative on oil and gas. You know, here in Lea County, we produce oil and gas and energy for not just our area or New Mexico, but the entire world, and do so faster, safer, cheaper, and cleaner than they do than almost anywhere else. And we need to set the narrative. We need to be leading that. We need to be making sure that there's a campaign to show everyone how clean and how good our oil and gas is, how great it is for the economy. And there's so many ancillary jobs that come from that. You know, we've got 53% of the state budget coming from oil and gas, but when you drill down, it's so much more than that, because the Wendy's do well and the banks do well and all of these other ancillary agencies do well. So we have to lead that in oil. We have to lead the narrative on oil and gas and not be caught behind the progressives and their destructive narrative for the oil and gas industry. And the last thing I think we need to do is, one of the last things that is harmful to the state, is the Republicans really need to go and be Republicans. And so when we go to Santa Fe up there, we can see that time and time again there have been bills that get through, and they're bills that get through, and they're bills that are even sometimes supported by Republicans, like raising taxes or critical race theory or things like that. We simply cannot stand for that. And the Republicans need to be better. We have to be more persuasive. We have to be more engaging. We have to have a wider sphere of influence, and we have to gain respect of the colleagues that we do not agree with. And so with those three things, that's how we move New Mexico forward. That's how we're able to take our values and make sure that we defend them and also promote them throughout the rest of the state.
Sir, you have 2 minutes left within this time frame. Is there anything else that you would like to add or answer?
Yeah, you know, for sure. I think we're just really sick of losing. We're last in education. Our oil and gas industry, again, is under attack, and our border's wide open. So when we talk about education, we don't want to lose. We simply cannot afford to, and our kids can't afford to. But we see time and time again government overreach coming down to areas just like here in District 42, and that overreach is absolutely astounding, whether they're talking about taking away your guns, whether they're forcing you to wear a mask or get a vaccination, or whether they're sending unfunded mandates to our police officers, or whether they're sending unfunded mandates to our schools. And it is extremely important that we stand up to the government overreach by gaining seats in the Senate and gaining seats in the House so that we have a wider sphere of influence. We cannot simply go and argue and have our vote be our last line of defense. What we have to do is make sure that we bring a lot of other good members to our team and make sure that we can stop the government overreach and these mandates that come down to us.
All right, thank you. I'll cancel that and move on to the next question, which is, pick one position or on a stance or a statement your opponent has made and explain why you believe it's wrong. And we allow 3 minutes to answer this question.
Don, appreciate you asking that question. You know, my opponents run an ad on me saying that I said I would vote with Larry Scott 97% of the time. That is true. One of the only really true things in the campaign, that I would vote with Larry Scott about 97% of the time. But let's talk about the 3%. And I heard your question, and you want one specific example, but you know, we've got a couple. My opponents voted to raise taxes 8 times. 6 of those times were vetoed by Susana Martinez. He's also voted for critical race theory. But the one I really want to talk about and focus on is probably the health care for certain non-citizens, health care for illegal immigrants. He stated time and time again that was done to save rural hospitals. Well, it's simply not in the bill. I've read the bill and gone through all of it and gone through all of the financial impact reports of the bill and gone through commentary from things like an article from the New Mexico Political Report. The New Mexico Political Report says in there, HB 112 would enable all counties and hospitals in the state that offer indigent care to extend that program to all migrants regardless of their legal immigration status. I've also got the financial impact report here. And the financial impact report is extremely telling, and not only siding with the financial impact report here, but also with the Conservative Union saying that it was absolutely free health care to illegals. But if we turn to the last page here in the financial impact report, the question is, what will the consequences of not enacting this bill? And this is HB 112. It says the consequences of not enacting this bill are that undocumented immigrants in some counties could still be denied care on the basis of their documentation status. I do submit that I would not agree with about 3% of what my opponent has voted for. And that 3% is the important 3% that matters to the voters. Because I've never voted to raise taxes. I never will vote to raise taxes. I'm not voting for critical race theory. And our rural hospitals are in no better shape now after passing this bill. It doesn't even make sense. In order to save rural hospitals, we're going to mandate they provide care for free. It just simply doesn't make sense. So the 3% that I wouldn't vote for is the important 3% that matters to our district and our values.
Right, thank you, sir. And we move on to the next question, which is, your campaign has involved negative commercials and comments by both sides in media coverage. How do you feel about this, and how do you think it impacts voters in this election and in politics generally? And we allow 2 minutes to answer that.
Thank you. You know, it's really important that we turn voters out, and I'm as disgusted by a negative campaign as the next person is. But I will tell you, we started this campaign based on policy and based on votes, and that's not really what it's turned into here. We've continued to go down that route and to show who my opponent is by the votes he's taken and the positions and the things that he's said, like saying there would be a few issues in which I would lean a little to the left, he's quoted by saying. And when we think about that and we think about arguing on those fronts, then that's far less disgusting than what the campaign has turned into. Where it crosses the line is attacking families and personal attacks. And I think that's what really disgusts the voters. That's what really disgusts me. And so there's a line there. There's a line in showing who your opponent is. There's a line in saying what you're going to stand up for. But the line is not attacking families, and many of you may have seen the nasty texts that even my own mother has received. It's absolutely atrocious, and it does turn people off. And I'm sorry that's what my opponent has made this race. But let's really figure out what it is about. It's about policy, and it's about good decisions, and it's about records. So if we can focus on that, then I think maybe we get a few more people to show up.
All right, thank you. And the next question is really not a question. It is to share something about yourself that voters probably don't know and might find surprising. And we allow 1 minute for that.
Well, so I asked my wife this question. I said, how would I answer that question? She thought that maybe I should ask Larry's campaign and we could all learn something about me that nobody knew. But I'm not, in thinking about how I'd really answer that question. So I turned 40 last year, and I had a great idea that I was going to ride a bucking horse at a rodeo. Sounds like a solid plan when you're 40, right? Usually that's when you dust your boots off. Well, I rode the horse at rodeo. I didn't actually ride him. I actually got bucked off there. But my kids were so impressed. They're like, Dad, that's awesome. That was so cool. We didn't even think you would do it. And so after that, because I didn't make the 8-second ride, I have made it a goal to go ahead and get that done. So maybe the next time you see me, I have a broken arm or leg or something. But I'm following through with. But I'm definitely following through with that little tidbit about myself there.
All right, thank you. And then we give you 2 minutes to say anything you would like. It's just an open 2 minutes. It's up to you, whatever you would like to say.
Thank you so much. And in kind of closing out here, you know, during this campaign, I'd like everybody to think about the attacks that have been taken upon me, and they really have never been attacks on my record. You know, I've been attacked for being appointed by the governor, you know, in which I signed a petition to impeach her the following day. But you know, I've been attacked on that. I've had some personal attacks and attacks on my business and things. But the one thing that I'm not getting tripped up on is my record, because it is an unblemished, conservative, defendable record. And I was on the county commission for 4 years and spent a session in Santa Fe and took a lot of votes. But I took the votes that the people in southeast New Mexico wanted me to take. You know, let's make this race about what it is. Let's make the race about our records. As I said at the beginning, in the last 6 months, I've sponsored legislation to bring money back to our area. I've got $70 million for Highway 128, and the first Republican to start drafting border legislation for this special session. We've done that in the last 6 months. Imagine what we can do in the next 4 years. We need everybody to show up and vote for us and support, because we're going a different direction. What we've been doing hasn't been working, and we need your support to do that. Thank you.
All right, and finally, if you will tell us the one word that best describes you or represents you, what would that be, sir?
Electable.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you. And now we will invite Larry Scott, former representative, to the table to answer the same questions. And welcome him in. While we get set up, I want to be sure and thank the Hobbs Boys and Girls Club for allowing us to be here. Misty Funk and her staff, wonderful, and we could not do this event without their cooperation and their hosting. So we say thank you very much. And now it is time to continue on, and we welcome to the table our former New Mexico representative and candidate now for the Senate District 42 seat, Larry Scott. Welcome in, and thank you for being here, sir.
Dawn, thank you for having me.
And let's start in with the very same questions in the same order that Senator Steve McCutcheon answered. And we'll start with explain who you are and why you want this job. And that we give you 2 minutes to do that.
Okay. I'm going to start with I'm a Christian. I'm a father of 2 grown sons, both gainfully employed, and 1 granddaughter who is the light of my life. I've spent most of my career in Lea and Eddy counties in the oil and gas production business. And due to my experience in that industry, I am acknowledged as the expert on the petroleum industry in the legislature. And that's really how I got into politics. I was tapped on the shoulder when my predecessor decided to retire, and Lea County needed somebody that knew how to spell oil. Now, my voting record in the House of Representatives has me as number 3 of the 112 legislators, both House and Senate, in the Rio Grande Foundation Freedom Index. And if you throw me in the air, I'm going to come down on the right side almost all of the time. In my 10-year tenure in the House, we have been in a significant minority in all but 2 years of that service. And as a consequence, we play a lot of defense. And we have been successful in that effort, turning away a number of the governor's very progressive initiatives. And I believe that as one voice out of 42 instead of one voice out of 100, I can have an even greater impact.
All right. Thank you, sir. And we go to the next question, which is, what are the 3 biggest issues New Mexico is facing, and what will you do about them? We give you 5 minutes to answer.
Well, in talks with constituents during this campaign, I think there are 3 issues that are at the top of mind of my constituents. First one is border security. The second one is education. And the third one is the rising cost of living in this state. And what could we do about that? So let's start with border security. I spent a day with the Border Patrol, with Sheriff Corey Helton, with a number of legislators, and with sheriff's departments from both Texas and Arizona reviewing those security issues. I had 3 takeaways from that. And the first one being that the Border Patrol is doing the best they can with the resources they have. They are very simply outmanned and outmoneyed. When you compare that to an industry that is generating hundreds of millions of dollars in human trafficking. Now, the second thing that came to me was the Border Patrol's representation that the governor had ordered state police, state law enforcement, to stand down with respect to these border issues. Now, as a consequence of that trip, we developed a plan that is modeled after the Texas legislature's legislation, and that dealt with both stash houses and human trafficking. The border can be secured, and it can be secured with the installation of camera technology, which we as a legislature can do absent a governor veto. Now, with respect to education, New Mexico students are 4 years behind the rest of the nation. We are ranked dead last. And 2 years of those are school systems, and the other 2 years are a consequence of the COVID lockdown. I believe that children should be able to read by the time they leave the 3rd grade. And this is the Mississippi miracle that has raised that state from the very bottom of the rankings in the nation up into the middle of the pack. Second thing, I believe we should abolish PED and move those responsibilities back down to the local school board level, and as importantly as that, parents. We're spending billions of dollars and not getting much for it today. Finally, the high cost of living. I plan to try to repeal the Clean Fuels Act that we passed last session by only 2 votes that is guaranteed to raise the cost of gasoline by some 38 cents per gallon when this is fully implemented. Rural New Mexico very simply can't stand that kind of hit to our budgets.
All right, 1.5 minutes left. Is there anything else that you would like to add or to say using this time?
Well, I will. I would like to recognize the folks that have endorsed me in this contest. Not only Senator Gay Kernan, not only Sheriff Corey Helton, but a number of my legislative colleagues, county commissioners, city commissioners, and as importantly as that, hundreds of voters in District 42.
All right, thank you, sir. And we move on to the next question, which is, your campaign has involved, or actually pick one position on a stance or a statement that your opponent has made and explain why you believe that it is wrong. And we give you 3 minutes, sorry about that, 3 minutes to answer.
I can do this in 3 minutes, and I'm going to call it my entire voting record. We'll start with sanctuary cities. This was an attempt to bring money back into the Southeast as a consequence of the change in GRT source taxation. And in order to do that, we weighted the formula to make Southeast New Mexico do better than everybody else in the state. But in order to get the votes to get that legislation through, you have to let everybody have some benefit, including the population centers of the state. So on CRT, this was a 2016 bill that was voted on by every member of the House, every member of the Senate. It went through both House committees without a dissenting vote, and it was passed with the representative objective of helping black children get to grade level reading by the second grade. CRT wasn't even a word in 2016. Finally, the funding of illegal health care. If you'll recall, in 2021, these hospitals are, in fact, obligated to pay for these services regardless of whether they got paid for them or not. Those hospitals came to the legislature and said, we need help. And the legislature, with COVID on the horizon, stepped up to provide that help. Now, again, this was a unanimous vote in both the House and the Senate. And what I find very curious is that my opponent at the county level put $600,000 in the 2021 Eddy County budget for exactly the same objective. So, those three issues, sanctuary cities, CRT, and funding for illegals with respect to hospitals, I believe, are more than adequately addressed in this campaign.
All right, thank you, sir. And we move on. Your campaign has involved negative commercials and comments by both sides in media coverage. How do you feel about this? And how do you think it impacts voters in this election and in politics in general? And we give you 2 minutes to respond.
Dawn, I didn't start the fight. This was forced upon me by misrepresentations and attacks from my opponent. It started with a text from his campaign consultant to one of the folks on my side that we are going to expletive deleted bury Larry Scott. And the very next day, I believe it was the day after Easter, the Sanctuary Scott website went up with all of these representations, labeling me a closet liberal. And the McCutcheon campaign has charged me with abusing his mother, abusing his wife, abusing his children with campaign rhetoric, and that is just flat nonsense. We have never brought up in any form or fashion his family out of my campaign. Now, I'll give you an example of one of the misrepresentations. I gave to border-loving Democrats campaign contributions. That was $200 20 years ago to Senator Jeff Bingaman, who was at the time a sitting senator, and with Senator Domenici operated a terrific tag team of senatorial support for the state of New Mexico.
All right, thank you, sir. Now, if you'll share something about yourself that voters probably don't know and might find surprising. We give you 1 minute to do that.
Well, I have a hobby. I love flying. I've enjoyed aviation ever since I was very young. I retain that sense of wonder today. I'm not only a pilot, I've built 2 small airplanes. I'm in the process of restoring a 3rd. And my passion has enabled me to help a number of people with what are called angel flights, where I ferried either sick people or people needing to get from somewhere to somewhere without being able to use public transportation. So that is and remains a passion of mine.
All right, thank you very much. And now we give you 2 minutes to say anything you would like about anything. It's your open 2 minutes, and I will start that timer for 2 minutes right now.
I think this election is about character. It's about integrity. One of the issues that we discovered was that my opponent purchased a small parcel of land in a spot that was advantageous to commercial water operations. He drilled a livestock well on that small parcel, then proceeded to caliche over the entire parcel and build a large commercial water sales facility. The state has issued, and it remains under, a cease and desist order. And this was recognized as an illegal diversion of water, and it's been represented that it's no big deal. It was a compliance issue. But it is a big deal because this was intentional. It was clearly an illegal diversion, and it has now resulted in and it's been represented no fine, but there has been an order issued to pay back 16 acre-feet of water for this transgression. And an acre-foot of water in Lea County sells for between $10,000 and $13,000. So there is, in fact, a monetary penalty for this activity. Now, I have 7 infractions, what we called inks in the industry, over my 40-year career in the oil and gas business. Now, these are accidents. They are flow line leaks. They are a tank running over. They are nothing intentional. You get a piece of paper, you fix the problem, you report that it's been fixed, no fine levied, no cease and desist, and other companies, rather than 7, have in some cases in the thousands.
Time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, what is the one word that best describes you or represents you?
I'm going to use trustworthy.
All
And
right.
thank you for having me.
And thank you very much, sir. All right, thank you. And now we will shift things just a little bit. We are going to welcome in the 3 ladies who are vying for New Mexico Representative, District 62. That would be Deborah Hicks, Danae Robinette Mills, and Dr. Elaine Sena Cortez. And I will, you see that the camera is now showing you all of our logos. We thank you again, all of our sponsors and participation, all of our stations, and we'll welcome the 3 ladies up to the table. I will move away to the side to a moderator's table and let you guys come up here and get settled in whichever order you would like. Here, left to right. Let's come up, have a seat, and then we'll adjust the camera. I'll ask the questions from over here, and you can look at me or look at the camera as you'll be talking to in addressing voters and prospective voters through the camera. And we'll get that very close. All right. Just let me know when you guys are all settled, and then we'll pull the camera back up and show everybody, and we'll continue on with our event. All right. You ladies ready? Everybody good? Thumbs up. All right. And welcome back as we present now the race for New Mexico representative candidates for District 62. And we will start with Deborah Hicks and then move to Danae Robinette Mills and finish up with Elaine Sena Cortez. So here we go. Much the same questions, only a couple of them are a little bit different. And I will tell you that candidates in every race were provided with the questions in advance. That's something that I haven't mentioned yet this evening, but this is a good time to do that and let everybody know that you've all had these for a couple of days, and now we'll get started. All right, Deborah Hicks, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Explain who you are and why you want this job, and you have 2 minutes to do that.
Thank you. I am a fourth-generation Lea County, New Mexican, a licensed professional engineer, a business owner, as well as a community leader. Over the last 20 years, I have served at the local, state, and federal level as a volunteer, an officer, appointed member, as well as advocate for numerous organizations at the local level, state level, and so forth. Through this, my accomplishments and my advocacy has been generally focused on economic development, licensing for professional engineers, taxes, legislative affairs, as well as business economics. As a professional engineer, I took an oath to be a protector of public health, safety, and welfare in the communities where we and I and my employees live, work, and play every day. The reason that I intend to go to Santa Fe is because the decisions made in Santa Fe are crushing my ability to do so.
All right. You have about 45 seconds left. Anything you'd like to add?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll move on. Next up, what are the 3 biggest issues that New Mexico and or your district is facing, and what will you do about them? And you have 5 minutes to answer this question.
So my 3 E's from the very beginning have been education, economy, and endurance. We are now 51, as Representative Scott talked about. We are now 51 in the nation for education, dead last, as he said, for our scores in reading and math proficiency. When you consider the significant amount of money that our governor has put in the system, she's increased her spending by more than almost 50% since the Martinez-Yazzie ruling. These increases are bringing little to no return in investment in New Mexico as we went from 49 to 51. We have more than double the amount of money that we're spending in education. As a matter of fact, this year our governor proposed to institute a literary institute, a building that she would build for $30 million and $30 million that she would spend 4 years later for structured literacy. What we're doing about this is unfortunate. We have not made any strides in education. The second part of education has to do with absenteeism. We now have chronic absenteeism, and that is due to students and parents and their lack of involvement with their students' lives. So again, 1E is education. Critical to me with regard to education is making sure that our students are properly tooled to be successful in life. And I think that that is critical. I think it's important that we have 3rd grade proficiency in reading. Second thing is economy. Economy is our business climate. Taxes. We need to completely overhaul our tax structure so that it creates economic growth. We need to reform gross receipts tax and the pyramiding that we have in our state. We also, thirdly, we need to address crime. Crime has gone up significantly in the last several years. We need to end catch and release policies. We need to enact 3 strikes and you're out for convicted felons of violent crimes. Again, 3 E's. The last one is endurance. Endurance. We must maintain our our commitment to the oil and gas industry. And I will continue to promote and defend the oil and gas positive impact to our state as well as our nation. Having served on 3 governing boards with regard to education as well as the New Mexico Highway Commission, I understand what our taxes for oil and gas and the commitment that oil and gas has to us. It has a huge impact. Those are the funds that are most important to us. And when we do not defend our oil and gas industry, we will begin to lose revenue for those 2 items.
All right, thank you. And the next question is, what in your personality or experience makes you the better person for this job? And what in your opponent's personalities or experiences do you feel make them less qualified? And we will give you 3 minutes to answer that. And I also will also let you ladies know that when you answer, as you're on camera, the camera is only on you.
Okay.
And each of you, and it will move off and to focus on the next person. Then as all 3 of you are not on camera while one of you is answering the questions, okay? And we will start the answer for this. You have 3 minutes to answer.
Thank you. I am a servant leader, compassionate and committed. I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner for more than 34 years. I've made payroll for more than 34 years. I've been a volunteer and an advocate for our citizens of New Mexico for 34 years. I'm a licensed professional engineer. I've worked in the New Mexico legislature for more than 15 years. I have actually been an advocate either for or against legislation, and I have sat down with our legislators from New Mexico, from Lea County, from Doña Ana County, and created and written bills. A few of those bills include the public-private partnership. Now, the city of Hobbs has actually completed several public-private partnerships. That is the reason that we have our trail. That is the reason that we have our CTEC building. There are many projects that have been P3 projects here in Lea County, but that's because we are our own city. We do not comply. We have our own rules within the city of Hobbs. We're called home rule. It's important to have those tools within our state to be able to, say, build roads. When we had floods in Eddy County, we were able to actually, under emergency rule, utilize P3s where Chevrons and the oil companies, our majors here, would actually pitch in to build roads. It's critical. So again, I sat down with our legislators and helped with P3 public-private partnerships. I've also worked on the Design Build Bill as well as the Grow Your Own Teachers Act. Those are just a few that I have worked on in the last 15 years, and that does not include the numerous bills that I've either testified for or against. Thank you.
All right, you have about 1 minute left. Would you like to use that?
What I'd say is that I have worked at the local, state, and federal level for numerous organizations. I understand, because of my volunteers on New Mexico State Board of Regents, the Highway Commission, I understand what it takes to reach across the aisle, because all of those commissions and boards have Democrats and Republicans. So I understand what it takes, going down to the base level, finding and acknowledging where you are and where you need to go. So I have served, I have worked in the legislature.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move down the list. Share the one thing you most want to accomplish in office. And you have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you. It's not going to take me very long because it's critical for me as a business owner, as a mom, as a New Mexican. I will insist that we have legislation that requires proficiency in reading by 3rd grade. We are setting our students up for failure. If they cannot read by 3rd grade, then certainly the next year they're not going to be able to do math. And then by the time they graduate, they will be, to a certain extent, unemployable. As a business owner, I am the one hiring those students that have graduated. And what we found most recently is we're going to have to start teaching math at Pettigrew & Associates because our students are ill-prepared. So again, what I will achieve is legislation that requires proficiency in reading by 3rd grade.
All right, 1 minute left. Anything to add? Okay, we'll move on. Share something about yourself that voters probably don't know and might find surprising. And you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I am an underground certified miner. Now that doesn't mean that I'm young. I like to think so. And I'll explain. Several years back when the WIP site was building their explosion walls, we were successful at Pettigrew & Associates to have the contract for underground construction administration and construction inspection. So we had night shifts and day shifts. And we all became certified because to be underground, there are a number of safety requirements. So Pettigrew & Associates was there day and night, 2 shifts. And we actually had several employees that were extremely uncomfortable. So that is why the owner of the company was down underground.
All right, thank you. And finally, say anything you want. You have 2 minutes to address anything, go back over anything, or say whatever you'd like.
I think many people know me. Over the years, my vocation has become my advocation. I spend both my personal time and my professional time building better communities through advocacy, using my hands, my heart, my feet, all the while building trust. There are many people in the state of New Mexico, across our entire state, that have endorsed me because of my advocacy and because of my passion for trying to make New Mexico a better place to live.
All right, about a minute and 15 seconds. Anything to add?
I think I would just enforce one more time. As I said, I served at the local level for the City of Hobbs Utilities, for our Covenant, bringing Covenant into town and actually serving on the board. And then at the state level, I've been appointed by 3 different governors. I served in the Judicial Performance Evaluation Commission, the Highway Commission, Board of Regents. I can say my most important endeavors have been for education, starting all the way at the elementary schools through K-12 into higher education. My passion is education. I want New Mexico to sustain. I want our children to come back to New Mexico because we have a growth in economic development. We have a growth and a change to our tax structure. I want to stop exporting our human capital to our surrounding states because they have better policies in tax and economic development.
All right, thank you. And finally, what is the one word that best describes you or represents who you are?
So, of course, I have my own descriptions of who I think I am, but I reached out to my colleagues in economic development and professional structural engineers, architects, and so forth. And I loved what they said. I'm tenacious. There's no doubt about it. 3 different people said I'm tenacious because I don't give up. I have the passion to get things done.
All right, thank you very much. Deborah Hicks, candidate for New Mexico Representative, District 62. And now we will move on to candidate Danae Robinette Mills. And again, the camera shifting over just to you. And now we will go through the list and ask you each question, and then we will finish up with Elaine Sena Cortez. So, tell us who you are and why you want this job.
Thank you for having us. I'm so glad that we're here at the Boys and Girls Club. I hold a lot of hats, a lot of names here in this community, and one of which is a board member here at the Boys and Girls Club, which is one thing that I love to do. I'm a local attorney. I have my own law firm, mainly specializing in estate planning. I get to help families, whether they've recently had a loss or they're just trying to get things together, help them secure their assets and their families and their future. I also have the privilege of being able to help people with adoptions, which is, just really a joy, and I enjoy that so much. To me, the law is wonderful and fascinating because it's able to help people in so many different ways. That's why I became a lawyer. I went to law school in order to study policy, in order to write the law. I worked in D.C. under President Trump doing Homeland Security policy, national security, counterterrorism, border security, that sort of thing. So that's a bit of my background before I moved back home. I'm from here, was raised here by my mom, who's a teacher at Broadmoor Elementary, and my dad was a police officer at HPD for 20 years. So I grew up hanging out at the police station like most 10-year-olds do. That's just a little bit about who I am. I live here now with my husband, Chris Mills, and our son, Thomas, who's graduating from Hobbs High on Saturday, and I'm very proud of him. So that's just a little bit about me and my background. And, I want this job because I'm passionate about the law. I'm passionate about people. I have the legal experience. I have the policy experience. Working in D.C., I've worked at every stage of the legislative process, from drafting bills, editing, getting co-sponsors, negotiating provisions with both parties. I've done all of that, and so I can bring that experience to Santa Fe and be ready to work on day one.
All right, thank you. And now, tell us what you think are the 3 biggest issues that New Mexico or your district is facing, and what will you do about those issues? And we give you 5 minutes to answer this.
So I think, talking to people, we've locked a lot of doors, and I know we've each met a lot of you. The things that I hear are that people are worried about their kids, they're worried about crime, and they're worried about their futures. So, whether that's border security, which affects everything, if we are not safe at home and we are not secure, we're not able to take those next steps and look at other policies. So I think number one, I'm going to have to agree with those Senate candidates, is border security. That's my background and my expertise. And I've seen how that interacts with every other area of policy. So, making sure that border is secure, whether that is allowing, our own border force at the state level, whether that's a specialized section of state police. I think there's a lot of options available, and I think that that's something that we absolutely need to do. When we look at what's happening around the world, especially with hostile nations like Iran trying to, start a war with Israel, that's where border security and national security, it's so evident that that's important. So looking at oil and gas, right, that is vital to our economy and our local economy, and being able to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve with Lea County oil is vital to protecting our interests, so then we can focus on these other things like education. But if we're not safe, then we can't make it to that next level.
All right, we've got about a little over 3 minutes left. Would you like to add anything to your answer or
Sure.
talk about anything?
I forgot it was 5 minutes,
Yes.
so I thought we were still back to 2. Looking at moving on to crime. So I was a prosecutor. I've worked in criminal law. My husband is a criminal law attorney, so we talk about that all day long. And like I mentioned, with my stepdad being a police officer, we grew up talking about those things. So it's very normal around our dinner table to talk about criminal law and policy and talk about where those gaps are. You know, we get to work cases together. So I've seen all of those things in real life and functioning. You know, you understand where the gaps are, especially with, you know, criminal law after prosecuting a case. So, you know, when you're prosecuted murders and rapes, you see where those gaps are and what we can do. And so, you know, that's the experience I bring to the table here. One of my fellow candidates, you know, was discussing repeat offenders and catch and release. And I think, you know, with the change in the Constitution, it's very important to go in and make the changes to state statutes where we can, prioritizing repeat offenders, people that are already on conditions of release, and making sure that they're not able to commit sprees of crimes. And that's the experience that I have, and the knowledge and knowing where those gaps are and able to fix them.
All right, about a minute and a half. Anything else?
That's okay.
You're good? Okay. And we move on to ask you to tell us what in your personality or experience makes you the better person for this job, and what in your opponent's personalities or experiences make them less qualified. And you have 3 minutes to respond.
So talking to people, you know, again, knocking doors and discussing with people, I think a lot of people are confused about this race. They look at all of us and, you know, we all live here, we're all from here, and they see similarities, which is true. You know, I look for people next to me, nobody here is going to vote for abortion, late-term abortion, or vote, you know, to cut the oil and gas industry. But the difference here is, what else can you bring to the job? What are the other skill sets and the other things that you're able to do? You know, everybody's talked about in Santa Fe, the Republicans are not the majority, right? We don't have all the seats, and so we're not able to pass our agenda. So what's going to be really, really crucial is looking at these bills, being able to spot the worst language and be able to negotiate that out. So understanding the difference between, you know, a specific term, knowing what a definition means, how a law interacts with all the other laws on the books, and being able to make those changes, I think, is where our representatives can be able to make the most impact and the most change, and that's the experience that I have and I bring to this job.
Okay, got a minute 45 left. Anything you'd like to add?
A little more on that. I'm a bit of a policy nerd, so that's just my background and what I do, and this is really about one of very few times that this is actually relevant experience. You know, like I said, working in DC, I've drafted bills, drafted a terrorism bill in response to a bunch of school shootings. So, you know, unfortunately, that is something that our country does struggle with. And so instead of following the agenda of the liberal Democrats and wanting to attack gun control, which is the way that they always come after our rights, instead focusing on people that are committing crimes for political reasons, which are what most of those shootings are. So being able to track those, prosecute those, and be more efficient with that was a bill that I wrote and put forward in the United States Senate. So, you know, looking at those things and being able to have that experience and bringing that, I think, is going to be really, really important and crucial in order to move our values and our policies forward. So, you know, like I said, we all have the same values. We're all from here. That's not what this is about. What this is about is how you can do the job and not just, you know, be against everything.
All right, thank you very much. And now we'll move on to share the one thing that you most want to accomplish in office.
So I think the biggest thing is preventing unintended consequences. So you know, the Senate candidates had discussed earlier the GRT change. So most people didn't even know what it did because we just copied and pasted a bill from California. So there are multiple laws on the books, including the Clean Fuels bill that Representative Scott mentioned earlier, that does it say in there that it is a 50% 50-cent tax on a gallon of gas? No, that's not what it says, but that's functionally what it does. And a lot of legislators in Santa Fe didn't realize that. They didn't understand that, and that was an unintended consequence of this policy that they're trying to pass. And so when we're copying and pasting these laws from California that we don't understand how they interact with our laws, our regulations, that's where we have the most issues. And so being able to prevent those unintended consequences is going to be really, really important to protect not only our parental rights and our children, so looking at these school-based health centers. So the bill that passed had 22 words that altered everything, and nobody even realized it. So at the very end, at the last end of the third page, provision F, there's 22 words in there, and what it did was it ceded the authority of the legislature to the Department of Health to enact all regulation that they saw fit. It gave them a blank check, and most people didn't even realize that was in there. So being able to prevent those provisions, one, even spotting what they do is vital, to then being able to take them out and negotiate those privileges and figure out where the biggest issues are. And that's what I've done. That's what I do all day long. Being able to write draft policies and plans for people, that's what I do.
All right, thank you. And now share something about yourself that voters probably don't know and might find surprising. And you have 1 minute to do that.
So this is a total curveball, but I love playing pinball. So my husband and I have a couple of pinball machines, and it's a really good way to blow off some steam, just to hit the buttons as much as you can. There's way more skill involved in it than I believed initially, and so it's a fun way to kill time, and so I like playing pinball.
All right. Anything else? Got about 30 seconds left.
That's it on that one.
Okay. And finally, we give you 2 minutes to say anything you'd like about yourself, the campaign, whatever you would like. 2 minutes to do that.
When you're making a choice for state representative, I think it's really, really important to look at what each of our experiences are. So we are all experienced in very different ways, and my experience is in legislation and policy and the law, and it's what I do all day long. It's, like I said, I'm a bit of a nerd. I listen to C-SPAN for fun. It's just what I enjoy and what I've gotten good at, and so I would really love the opportunity to be able to use my unique skill set in order to help my neighbors and my friends. We all have different skills and different experience, but that's mine, and that's why I want this job.
Okay, about a minute left. Anything to add? Anything you'd like to say? All right. And finally, what is the one word that best describes you or represents who you are?
I think I'm going to say passionate.
Passionate?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything to add?
That's it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Danae Robinette Mills, candidate for New Mexico Representative District 62. And now we will move on to our final candidate and speaker in this segment, and that is Elaine Sena-Cortez. Welcome in and tell us who you are and why you want this job. And you have 2 minutes to do that.
Say, let's get this party started, but here we are an hour in, so thank you so much for being here. And if you've just now tuned in, again, my name is Elaine Sena-Cortez, and I'm running for State Representative, District 62. So, a little bit about me. I'm a Christian, I'm a wife, I'm a mom to Layla. My doctors always remind me that I am a geriatric mom. I had her a little bit in my older age, I could say. I'm a small business owner. I own Sena-Cortez Consulting, and I'm a professor at 2 different universities. Here at University of the Southwest, that's home for me, and Eastern New Mexico University. This past semester, I had about 150 students in undergrad and master's business courses. I believe there are 3 different components why I really want to be a state representative, and those 3 different components are people, our voice, and making Lea County our home. People should be the most powerful force in a free society, not politicians. And it used to be that we told the government what we needed, and now the government tells us what we need. Our people need to feel like they are being heard, and we know what is best for our own businesses, our own school, and our own community. Our voice. We need to send our voice to Santa Fe, the Lea County voice, and that is through me. Did you know that people bring their character to the position that they hold? And the foundation of my approach is listening to the people of District 62. I've lived in Lea County almost my entire life, and I have seen firsthand the impact that the oil and gas production has on our state. It is not just an industry here, it is our very identity. And our energy producers are men and women who work in the industry. They create countless jobs because of oil and gas. We need to send a fighter to Santa Fe, and I am your fighter. The third point is I want to make Lea County our home. I am pro-God, I am pro-life, I am pro-small business, teachers, law enforcement, but more than anything, I am pro-Lea County people. And as a mom, my daughter needs a state and a community that she can call home one day. My husband, Ephra, and I, we have called this our home. Our roots are here. We are committed to New Mexico. But Layla will only stay if there's a good education here, if there's a good quality of life, and if there's a good job here for her. So we cannot afford to ship our best and brightest out of state. We need to make Lea County our home.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll move on and ask you, what are the 3 biggest issues that Lea County or your district are facing, or actually New Mexico is facing? I jumped down my list. And what will you do about those 3 biggest issues?
So the 3 top issues that I'm concerned about are oil and gas, inflation, and crime. New Mexico must end its war on the oil and gas industry. Lea County is the #2 oil-producing county in the nation. So imagine where it would be if our legislature and the governor championed oil and gas instead of trying to kill it. Did you know in 2019, our legislators handed the power to the New Mexico Environment Improvement Board, which the governor controls. So essentially, they handed the power right over to the governor. The New Mexico Environment Improvement Board now passes rules that act like laws. Does that sound familiar? Kind of like we all experienced during the pandemic. And we're facing crazy rules like the ozone precursor rule, the clean car rule, and the clean fuel standard. The ozone precursor rule made by the New Mexico Environment Improvement Board now makes it too costly for small oil and gas producers to do business. So they can either hire workers to watch the wells day and night for leaks, or they can adopt new technology that will do it for them. But most of them can't afford it, so they will have to stop operations altogether. So I would like to introduce a bill that limits the power of the New Mexico Environment Improvement Board and requires legislative oversight of their rulemaking authority. Additionally, I'd like to introduce a bill that rolls back the clean car rule and the clean fuel standard. So my solution is simple. Limit the governor's power, support oil and gas, and drill, baby, drill. So my next one is inflation. Let's talk about the costs that are sky high right now. Costs have gone up in everything: groceries, gas, insurance, and cost of living. Our families are financially hurting. Currently, did you know this? Get this. New Mexico has 40 different taxes and surcharges, and yet it's one of the poorest states. On top of the sky-high cost of living, we have income tax, Social Security tax, and HB 6. In 2019, the legislature adopted HB 6 to make services taxable at the location of the service for the oil and gas industry. This was the largest money heist in New Mexico history because now the oil and gas tax proceeds were taken from local governments and given over to the state. So we need to amend the tax code to repeal personal income tax. We need to amend the tax code to repeal Social Security tax. And we need to amend the tax code to change the destination-based services tax for oil and gas to make the tax payable to the location of the service. So my solution here is simple. Let's put money back in the pockets of New Mexicans by cutting these taxes. The third one is crime. New Mexico has been a safe haven for criminals, and I believe we've coddled criminals for too long. So it's time to support the men and the women who wear the badge. It's time to silence the extreme left that vilify police officers. My solution is simple: accountability. Let's impose life sentences on convicted fentanyl traffickers. Is my time up? I'm a preacher's kid, and I can just do this about 3 times for each point. Okay.
Okay.
So accountability. And can I finish?
Yes.
Okay. Remove the possibility of parole for convicted murderers. And now let's empower judges to use judicial discretion to hold criminals in jail until their trial. Wouldn't that be something? And then let's repeal HB 4 and restore liability protections to police officers. Thank you.
Thank you. And now let's move on to another question. What in your personality or experience makes you the better person for this job? And what in your opponent's personalities or experiences do you believe make them less qualified?
So this is how you differentiate us as candidates. I am the one candidate that can deliver our Republican message to those disenfranchised voters. This race is so much bigger than District 62. This race is about voters statewide. And I'm the one candidate that can get community buy-in, build community, and nurture relationships. Not because I'm running for office, but because this is a lifestyle for me. This is what I do in our community. I'm the one candidate that can find commonality with voters statewide, and I'm the one candidate that can engage our community to increase voter turnout. I'm the one candidate that can silence the false narratives that, well, if you're for oil and gas industry, then you must be against the environment. And if you're for securing the border, then you must be against minorities. It's time to stop the madness, and it's time to bring our traditional values back to the forefront. And I believe that I'm the candidate that can do just that. And as far as my opponents, well, I believe that the voters will have to decide that on June 4th, Dawn.
All right, 1 minute left. Anything to add?
Girl, you should just let me go to the next point because I've already taken some extra time.
You did, but
let's
that's
do it.
okay. All right, we will move on. And share the one thing that you most want to accomplish in office, and that is 2 minutes to respond.
Oh,
please.
you're going to love me for this because this is a short answer. Limit the governor's power, period. Let's give power back to the people because that's where it's always belonged. Let's keep moving, girl.
All right. And if you'll share something about yourself that voters probably don't know and might find surprising, and you have a minute for that.
Well, I do love long walks on the beach, but something that voters don't know is that I have prayed about this decision for 15 years, and 15 years ago, I was 26, and I remember that I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that I would be in politics one day, and so I did what every 26-year-old does. I took my mom out to eat at Pacific Rim, and I told her, Mom, I'm going to be in politics, and I don't know how, and I don't know when, but I believe that God is going to use me to help the people of Lea County. And just like any proud mom would do, she had tears streaming down her face right there at Pacific Rim, and she said, baby girl, I believe in you, and you're going to do it, and you're going to impact thousands of people. Well, my mom passed from cancer in 2018, so she didn't get to witness all of this in person, but I believe that she's got the best seat in the house in heaven, and she's watching it all.
Okay, thank you. And now say anything you'd like. You have 2 minutes to say anything about the campaign, about the issues, about this, anything you'd like. 2 minutes.
Our faith, our family, and our freedoms are at war. We are under attack. And these are not just the Lea County values. These are our values. And I believe that I can be the champion that Lea County needs. I can be the voice that Lea County needs. I can be the advocate that Lea County needs. I can be a state representative that you could be proud of. I could be a state representative that Lea County can be proud of. So on June 4th, I humbly ask for your vote as your next state representative.
All right. And finally, if you'll tell us the one word that you feel best describes you or represents who you are.
Well, I'm not going to just give you one word. You know, if we just did one word, you know, if I wasn't a push the limit kind of person, I don't think I'd be running for office. So I'm going to give you 2 words, Dawn. Staying power. Through all odds, I'm resilient, I'm a fighter, and I stay engaged in our community's battles. I've got staying power because I am still here. And I'd like to ask for your vote again on June 4th in the Republican primary. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you all. That is, of course, Elaine Sena-Cortez. And along with Deborah Hicks and Danae Robinette Mills, we thank you ladies very much for showing up, for answering, and sharing this information with prospective voters and our watchers, our viewers, and our listeners. So thank you very much, and we'll let you go, and then we'll allow our next candidates to come in and get set up at the table. Thank you again, and we will keep the camera again now down on our stations. And then when we're all set up back at the table, we will have the camera on all three of us in this next race. All right, and welcome in. Thank you very much. We welcome in to my left is candidate Deanne Kimbrough for Lea County Commission District 1 race, and to my right we have candidate David A. Trujillo for the same job. So thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate the fact that you're a part of this event. Thank you again for watching and listening as we continue our candidate forum with Republican candidates you'll find on the upcoming June primary ballot. And we will feature this race and then finish up with Commission District 5. And we'll get to that. But first, we want to talk with, and we'll start in this instance with Deanne Kimbrough.
Hello, Dawn.
Hello.
How are you?
Yes, thank you very much for coming in. We'll give you 2 minutes to explain who you are and why you want this job.
Oh, I don't know if it can take 2 minutes to describe who I am, but I'm going to try. My name's Deanne Kimbrough, and most people know me from having the Country Store Quilt Shop in downtown Lovington. I've been there 18 years. It will be 18 years July 1st. I also, with my partnership with my husband, opened the downtown market in 2019, and that enables 30 more vendors and people to sell their wares and have a job there. And we have a lot of single mothers that are making things and things like that are enabling them to have an income there. My husband and I were also able to, over the last 5 years, purchase 9 buildings in downtown Lovington that were previously empty. We purchased them, brought them up to code, and that meant jackhammering up floors, putting in new electrical, everything, roofs, everything. And that enabled to bring in 9 more businesses in downtown Lovington that are paying GRTs there. I'm very proud of that fact. I have 2 kids. My son, Tony, retired from the Navy after 24 years of service about 3.5 years ago. He has 1 daughter and identical twin boys. They're a handful. He needs to be home, helping his wife take care of them. And I have a daughter who lives in Lovington who's a stay-at-home mom with 1 son there. My husband, Bobby, has 2 children, and I got bonus kids when we got married about 6 years ago, and I'm very proud of them, too, and I claim them. They're mine. The one reason why I want this job is I want to take my business experience that I have. Before I opened my quilt shop, I had purchased Johnny Brown's pecan orchard north of Lovington, and another business venture that I was able to take a failing orchard that I could bring back to life and make it an operating business and go forward. I love giving back to my community that's helped me, and that's what I want to do. I want to take it a step further.
All right, thank you very much. Now tell us, what are the 3 biggest issues that your district is facing, and what will you do about them in office? And
So-
you have 5 minutes to answer. Okay.
So all of the candidates before are legislators and senators, and that's not what a county commissioner does. We don't make law. We can put forward ordinances, but we don't make law, and so it's a different from what you've heard from the candidates beforehand. One of the biggest problems I see facing Lee County and District 1 in Lee County is retaining our population. So many of our youth and people that live here are gone. You know, they leave the first opportunity they can get. We have really good jobs here that are available, high-paying jobs with good benefits, but they won't come here and they leave. And we have got to figure out how to increase people's quality of life so that our kids, when they do go off and get an education, they want to come back to Lee County. We have to have our terrain is never going to change, but our quality of life within the county can change to where when we interview people that we're bringing doctors and lawyers and engineers and people like that in, that they know that this is a good place to live, and that they see the quality of life here and that it's a great place to live. Roads in Lee County are a mess. And I serve on the Lee County Planning and Zoning Board, and I have learned so much about roads. And I love that board because I have learned so much about it. Next year, Lee County has put forth in their budget, they have budgeted for $60 million in road repairs on county roads. That's unbelievable, and that's a great step. They do that, they go forward with that. Where we have issues is state roads. And we have to figure out how to get state money back into this county to fix state roads. You know the minute you leave a city or a state road or a county road, but you know you're on a state road because of the shape of it. It's worse than an old lease road. And we have got to figure that out. The other problem that I see, and we have businesses downtown on Main Street and in Lovington, right there across the street from the courthouse, and one of the biggest problems I see is the drug problems. You're afraid to take your kids to the park. You see the needles, you see the homeless population, the mental illness, and all of that kind of stuff, and it's horrific. And you can't tell me that makes our communities appealing for people to move into and to live. And that has got to be addressed. One thing I think, the last thing we want is the state to come in here and to take over some, and put in a facility for that. But I think that may be something the county could look into.
All right, 2 minutes left. Anything you'd like to add?
One thing, like I said, being a business owner in Lee County has been fun. I enjoy it. But the state makes it a little bit hard on us, on independent business owners, and I would like to see some of that change, some of the restrictions that we have and some of the things that we have to do for employees that employees don't really want. I have a lot of my employees that are like, oh my God, this is not right. We shouldn't have to do this. And those are the things that we need to change. The state needs to leave us alone as small business owners and leave us alone as a population in general and let us live our lives the way we want to live. And I think it's going to take all of us. I think it's going to take the senators, the state reps. I think we all have to work together. And as a county commissioner, no, I can't write law, but I can go behind them and I can support everything that they do. And I can tell them, Lee County's behind these guys and this is what we want. And also, if you live in Lee County, I may not work in the oil field, but my business is, and if you live in Lee County, you are dependent on the oil field. I have a quilt shop, and I promise you, my business depends on oil and gas. The road you drive on, where you shop, everything you do depends on oil and gas in this county, and anybody in this county that's not pro oil and gas just needs to move. They need to leave Lee County because that's what we live, that's where we live, that's what we do, and that's who we are, no matter what your business is.
All right, thank you very much. Now, if you'll tell us what in your personality or experience makes you the better person for this job, and what in your opponent's personality or experience makes him less qualified?
Okay.
That's 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Okay. I have an open mind. I have a fresh train of thought. That's not experience. That's putting my skills to work in a different place. Neither one of us have experience being a county commissioner, and I haven't been in office for 20 years as my opponent has been, but that doesn't mean I'm inexperienced. I have business experience. I serve on county boards. I serve on nonprofit boards. I understand how the county works. I understand the job of a commissioner. I understand that my job as a commissioner is to work with the county manager, and that I am the advocate for the people in District 1, Lea County. That's my job, and I would take that very seriously. My opponent has been in office for 20 years, and most of the people in Lovington don't think our quality of life has gotten any better. Our parks are in horrible shape. We lost our swimming pool. Our roads are bad. The water structure and the infrastructure has all gone downhill. I've heard him say that the county hasn't done enough to help the cities and the municipalities, and I absolutely disagree. The county gave the city of Lovington a check for nearly $6 million about a year and a half ago and said, here, fix your problems. Here's you a check for $6 million. Any county facility in Lovington has a new road beside it. That's how the county could justify fixing some of the Lovington roads. They bought out the city dump grounds, which relieved the city of over $600,000 of salaries. They put in the LCCA, which also relieved the city of over $600,000 in salaries and benefits for those employees. The list goes on. How the city of Lovington managed that money or what they did with it is on them. The county can only do so much.
Okay. A little less than a minute left. Anything you'd like to add?
I think that's all.
Okay. We'll move on and ask you to share the one thing that you most want to accomplish in office. And that's 2 minutes on that.
2 minutes on
Yes,
that one.
ma'am.
As I stated before, I have been on the Lea County Planning and Zoning Board for a few years, and I absolutely love that board. When I was asked to be on it, I thought, well, I've bought and sold property in the county. I know what I'm doing. I didn't know anything. And the guys on that board, I took my book home, I studied, I learned all the policies and procedures, and for the most part, every time somebody comes up, a developer is coming up and talking to us, I know pretty much what they're talking about, and I can deal with it. The thing that I have seen, and many times we leave those meetings and the board members are saying, who would want to come to Lea County and develop property? We make it too hard. Everything in the ETZ zone and outside in the county, when you have to start subdividing property and things like that, it is a nightmare. We have had people that have been coming to our board meetings trying to get property subdivided longer than I've been on the board. We have one lady who's been trying to develop a piece of property, 20 acres between Lovington and Hobbs, and she's been coming to our board meetings for 3.5 years. And that's ridiculous. I think we need to streamline that process. We need to help those people, get through these. We need to unrestrain the developers that can come into this property and actually develop it instead of running them off. And that is something I've learned so much about, and it's an issue I would love to take on and figure out how to make this an easier process for people to come in here, build homes that are so needed in this area, and do what it takes. I mean, those are the things that keep us from developing. And that's one of the things I would love to take on.
All right. Thank you. Now we will ask you to share one thing, something surprising about yourself, something that voters probably don't know and might find surprising. In 1 minute.
I think everybody's going to find this surprising. When I was growing up, my father raced cars on the dirt track. And so all the kids I grew up with were guys, and I was a girl, so I never had the opportunity to do that. So in my 30s, I was an adult. I was going to do this, and those same guys that I grew up with helped me build a race car, and I raced for 4 years on the dirt track in stock cars, and I loved it, and I had a blast. And I know you'd find that hard to believe, but that's something I did, loved, and never will do it again. I'm too old now. I'm glad I got it over with in my 30s. I had a blast, and it's something I can put in my resume and go forward.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, 2 minutes. You can say anything you'd like, anything you want to address, anything you want to say. You have 2 minutes to do it.
I started when I opened my business. I saw a lot of people because I had helped people before I moved to Lovington, and I moved to Lovington about 20 years ago, and I moved to Lea County, and I didn't grow up here, but it's where I chose to make my lifelong home. I chose to live here. I chose to be a part of this community. I love it. I invested everything I have down there, and I saw an opportunity to help other people who were wanting to start their own businesses. It was something I had a lot of experience in, and so I was able to do that. And by doing that, I serve as treasurer on the chamber board, the Lovington Chamber of Commerce, and I also sit on the Lea County Fair and Rodeo. That's coming up. Get ready. I sit on that board as chairman of the Yucca Building Committee, and then I also sit on the the Lea County Planning and Zoning. I love serving the community. It's something I enjoy. It's something I love helping people, and this is the next step forward I can take.
All right. A little less than a minute left. Anything else on that point you'd like to share?
Let me think about that.
Okay.
I think I'm done.
Okay, thank you. And now, tell us the one word that best describes you or represents who you are.
The one word I could find, and I thought about it, and the one word I came up with was honest. You may not like what I have to say, but you're going to know it's the truth. I'm not going to promise you things I can't deliver. If I tell you something, it's the truth. And if I doesn't mean I won't do my best to deliver to do what I can, but if I can't deliver things, I'm not going to promise you I can. So honest.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you, candidate Deanne Kimbrough in the Lea County Commission District 1 race. And now we will turn our attention to, I turned my timer off. We'll turn our attention to the other candidate in this race, and that is David A. Trujillo. Tell us who you are and why you want this job, and you've got 2 minutes to do that.
Okay. Good evening, David Trujillo, running for County Commissioner, District 1. Who I am is I was born and raised in Lovington. I'm a veteran, Army veteran. I've served my community for over 20 years. Prior to my 20 years in service in government, I coached Little League basketball, Little League dribblers. I did baseball coach, many different aspects of Lovington that was on the volunteer side. My mom and dad had a business in Lovington in 1959, and they had restaurants, they had manufacturers and so forth, employing up to 55 employees. I currently am a consultant in the oil and gas industry. I have a small business, laundry business, Lovington. I also do have a consulting business also for the oil and gas on the safety side. And I've been mayor and mayor pro tem and commissioner and also extraterritorial zoning board as well with the city of Lovington for 18 years. But as mayor, commissioner, and mayor pro tem for 20 years. So I really enjoy and I have a lot of passion for Lovington. One thing about it, for why am I running for this? HB 6 caught my attention, House Bill 6. It took millions of dollars away from Lovington, and it currently is affecting us currently, and I know the next dip in the oil and gas, without the HB 6 funding, we're going to be in a rut. So I want to ensure that the county continues to give that revenue back to the city, because a point of sale is anything outside the city limits, so we lose taxes. So some of our businesses do point of sale outside the city limits, we will not receive that taxes. Lovington receives probably about close to $800 to $1 million in gross receipts taxes per month. But you take away about $200,000 per month with that, it starts to affect our development. If oil and gas goes down to zero or dips below 40, then it also takes away from our revenue. And without the HB 6 money in place, we're going to find ourselves in a rut real quick. So that is mainly the biggest reason I am running, to ensure that we continue to get our funding back.
All right, thank you, sir. Now, if you'll tell us, what are the 3 biggest issues that Lea County or your district are facing, and what would you do about them?
Okay.
And you have 5 minutes for that, 5 minutes.
Okay, good. So one thing about Lovington and Tatum, it's a big district. We pretty much cover almost half of Lea County. So on the EMS side, emergency medical service side, for Tatum and Lovington, it stretches our limits in our ability to service the whole area. Calls for accidents and so forth, the time elapsed that involves to do that affects someone's life, seconds away and so forth. So I believe EMS needs to be a little bit more stronger. I believe that the county needs to apply more funding to that area to ensure that EMS is up to speed, has the equipment and so forth, and the staff to address the big area that it does cover. When it comes to law enforcement, we have a wide range of areas as well. Lovington alone is affected by law enforcement because it competes with the county and it competes with Hobbs. So it stretches our limits and our funding to provide good law enforcement just at the local level. But also, if you see the area that involves with law enforcement in northern Lea County, we need more service in our area, not only for the county portion, but also for the city. So there's somewhere we need to do a collaboration with sheriff and the local law enforcement to ensure we have a law enforcement. Tatum currently does not have a law enforcement. It is serviced through the sheriff department, but I believe their needs are greater than what is being provided. Roads, we need to address roads. Yes, the county is investing in roads, but currently started to invest in roads. But I believe that the solution would be to increase the road department, build a bigger road department, ensure that we are able and we are capable of building new roads within the county. We have vast revenues that are available. Instead of building new buildings, maybe we need to take care of our infrastructure and roads and so forth. And by means of putting more money into the road department, ensure we have the equipment to build roads, to maintain roads and so forth. And last but not least, revenues. Revenues are high, and the biggest talk of the town is how are we going to use these revenues? Are we going to place them in big new facilities, or are we going to give it back to the people? Facilities, yes, we're in need of new facilities within the county. We do need upgrades, yes. But some of the stuff we may not need, and we need to invest back in our communities and our municipalities. We got to understand that Lovington and Tatum provide the workforce for the oil and gas in northern Lea County. Without a good community and a good, strong community that's provided with resources through the county as well as the municipalities, they will suffer, people will leave, and then we'll be lacking workforce to provide for the oil and gas industry.
All right, about 2 minutes left. Would you like to add anything to that?
Yes. Well, you know, being a city commissioner, mayor pro tem for all these years, I see the needs of municipalities that have greatly been affected by HB 6 bill. And with the county taking this revenue under their wing, I want to ensure that they get it back. It is very difficult to operate a city, a municipality with less revenue. And we see the ups and downs of the oil and gas. We saw what happened to COVID when it went to zero. And we must understand that if the county is not providing funding for the municipalities, which here recently they did do, but just recently, but it hasn't been a trend, and it could change overnight depending on who's elected. So I just say, focus on the municipalities, focus on the outskirts of the city limits, but mainly always remember your workforce is in the municipalities. And I understand government, I understand funding, and what any loss of funding affects our budget, and if without a good budget, you will not be able to survive any low or another COVID. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll move on and ask, what in your personality or experience makes you the better person for this job? And what in your opponent's personality or experience, in your opinion, makes her less qualified?
Okay.
And you have 3 minutes for that.
Okay. Like I had stated, the experience I have with the municipality being under that, I've gone through the ups and downs of the oil and gas industry. I also went through COVID when there was no funding. I also was sitting in that seat as mayor when revenues went down to half and then almost less than half, and we had to operate with less than half revenues. It is very difficult to operate a municipality with few revenues, and it doesn't change overnight. You set a budget, and at the end of the year, if your budget is not sound, you're going to have to make changes. And if you're not able to make changes or stand up and make them changes, then you're going to be affected in the long term. So I feel that with my experience and so forth with municipality, multi-million-dollar budgets and so forth, being ups and downs of the oil and gas, I could clearly understand if the county came across any hiccups or anything like that, I can easily address it. I can easily debate with the other four commissioners because I have the experience in debating and so forth. As my opponent, sometimes they tend to judge someone that's been in office for 20 years, but they hadn't been in the ring with that individual. Taking punches with less revenue, taking punches from the public, taking punches when the government asks you to shut down all the businesses in town, taking punches when they're asked to wear masks and so forth. You have to deal with that head on. And sometimes people tend to judge you based on what their emotions are feeling at the time. But sit behind that seat, make that decision, and it changes you real quick. Like when you start to receive them punches and you're trying to ensure that your public is safe and well-being is first and so forth, and the municipality is moving forward, that is what makes me the better person. That's what makes her the weaker person, because she has not had the experience. She has not sat in that seat when the times were tough, when oil and gas went down to zero, when COVID came across, and all the ups and downs we had in the oil and gas field. And I lived here all my life, so I clearly understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
About 45 seconds left. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And now let's ask if you'll share the one thing that you most want to accomplish in office.
Okay.
And you have 2 minutes for that.
2 minutes, and,
Yes,
it,
sir.
and it still goes back to HB 6 bill, and I hate to say, hate to repeat myself on that, but that is my clear focus, is that I want to ensure that we receive that money back to the municipalities. Tatum, for instance, lost thousands of dollars. A little community like that doesn't have a lot of retail business or GRTs, it's going to affect them. Currently they have no law enforcement. They most likely cannot, in the future, may not be able to afford a law enforcement. They don't have a full-time EMS department. Small things like that, because HB 6 takes a big effect on people and the municipalities. Same way with Lovington, losing almost $3 million a year. That does take a big effect on how we operate, and as well as Tatum. And I want to make sure that while in office, that does not change, because I guarantee you, after a while, at first, it's a hot topic, then it becomes a backdoor topic, then it disappears, and then Lovington's doing without. We used to receive a groceries tax. We used to receive an HB 6 revenue. The only revenue we get right now is a grocery receipts tax, and that is the only revenue we receive, and that's revenue that has occurred within the city limits. But other than that, we've lost a lot of tax monies, and we need to make sure that we receive them fundings, because without them fundings, Lovington will continue to slip and slip. Thank you.
All right, about 30 seconds left. Anything to add on that point?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now you have 2 minutes, or you have 1 minute to share something about yourself that voters probably don't know and might find surprising. 1 minute.
Well, you could call me Al Capone, or you can call me Scarface. A lot of people always look at my scar and say, Dave, have you ever been in a bar fight, or where'd you get that scar? You're ex-military and so forth. No, I got this scar when I was a young kid, about 6 years old. My parents had a restaurant and a couple of other businesses in the city of Lovington, and they used to purchase 55-gallon drum barrels of oil. Well, my mom, one day, she jumped in one of the delivery vans, and there was a 55-gallon drum barrel in the back, and well, she forgot something at the shop, so when she applied the brake, the barrel fell on top of me, and it crushed my, gave me a head concussion, broke my jaw and so forth, and left me with a scar. Some people find it sexy, and then some people get scared of it because they don't know where it came from. So I'll take both. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now 2 minutes. You can use that 2 minutes to say anything you would like to say, anything at all. 2 minutes.
Okay. I lived in Lovington all my life. I have a big passion for Lovington. As I stated earlier, I was a Little Devils coach prior to being in office and so forth. I was a all-star baseball coach and so forth. I was born and raised there, went to high school there, went to New Mexico Military Institute, went to Eastern New Mexico University. I stayed in this area. I'm the last one out of my family to be there, to live in Lovington. I have a big passion for Lovington. Cleanup days, you'll find me there. You'll find me at every ribbon cutting. You'll find me almost at every city meeting. Out of my past 20 years, I've only missed 3 city meetings. My passion for Lovington is very high. When somebody opens up a business, I'm going to be there for them. I know they're taking a big risk, and I'm going to make sure that I shake their hand and I show them appreciation as a city commissioner and for them taking their risks within Lovington. My passion runs deep. So not only do I serve the citizens of Lovington, I've also served my nation. And I've also served my community. I used to be also a dispatcher for the Sheriff Department years back. So I've pretty much been around for quite some time and doing a lot of good things for Lovington. I will continue to do this. I have 20 plus years with the city, and I have still remaining with the city a year and a half. So at the end of my tenure, I'll have 22 years. And that shows where I'm at and where I want to be with the community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. About half a minute left. Anything?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
And finally, what is the one word that best describes you or represents who you are?
Okay. And it goes back to being passionate. If I wasn't passionate, I wouldn't be here sitting in this seat. I wouldn't be taking punches when I was mayor. I wouldn't be taking punches currently as Mayor Pro Tem. I wouldn't be taking punches as a commissioner. You've got to have passion for it. It's not a big paying job as being a commissioner. I remember when I first come on board, it was less than $100. And now it's $400. It's not a lot of money, but you take a lot of heat for it. And that's why I say you either have to be passionate in what you do for your community, because if you're not, you better step aside. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. David A. Trujillo, candidate for Lee County Commission District 1. And thank you again to candidate Deanne Kimbrough. Thank you very much. Oh, no, that's it. Oh, the one word. He did that. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did. The one word. What was your word again?
Passion.
All right,
Oh,
passion.
I thought he missed it. I
No,
was like,
we got
oh,
it.
I didn't want to make sure he didn't miss it.
All right,
Miss
no,
one
no,
of his
no.
questions.
No, we got it. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
yes,
Dawn.
you're
Thank you
welcome.
so much.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Thank you.
Don. It's always a
All right,
pleasure.
you're welcome. And we will we'll get the camera down to show you again our logos of all our stations, and we'll welcome up our final 2 candidates of the evening. And when everybody's settled back in, we'll put the cameras back up and we'll get started with our final 2 candidates here in our final race in this candidate forum. And we say thanks again to the Boys and Girls Club of Hobbs for allowing us to use a room in their great facility. We appreciate Misty Funk and her staff, and we also thank everyone who was involved in coming together, and we thank the candidates again for a long night. You guys are the final 2, and you've had to be most patient, and thank you again for watching and listening and trying to become more educated as a voter. And we would appeal to you again, please vote. Please vote in the upcoming June primary election. Everyone needs to vote and be heard. Now, we welcome in, and we will start with candidate James M. Goss. And start and tell us who you are and why you want this job.
Perfect. Thank you, Dawn, for having me. I
2
really
minutes.
appreciate it. Right, thank you. My name's James Goss. Most people know me by Jim Goss. I'm 53 years old. I'm happily married to my wife, Brandy, who's born and raised in Jal, New Mexico. We relocated here approximately 21 years ago. I'm originally from Las Vegas, Nevada, so I'm the only contestant here through all the races that isn't Lee County born. However, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. Over the last 21 years, I've adopted Lee County, or I should say Lee County's adopted me. Jal, New Mexico has adopted me. We have 4 wonderful children, adult children, and 2 grandchildren. One of our oldest daughter is in medicine. She's a family nurse practitioner working in Lubbock, Texas. We have our oldest son works in oil and gas here. Our middle son is a U.S. Marine veteran and current deputy on the Lea County Sheriff's Department. And our youngest son just graduated high school in 2018 and is a student at New Mexico State University in the engineering program. Why I want this job is I'm driven for public service. My background is public service in medicine for the last 30 years. And it's just something that I'm very passionate about. I believe in being part of the process. I don't necessarily believe in being part of the problem. I believe that we should all have voices. We should all be involved. We should all have action. And the only way to represent change is to get out there, get involved, be motivated, and put your money where your mouth is. So, and I think I can do that as a Lea County Commissioner.
All right, perfect timing. Now we'll move on and ask you, what are the three biggest issues Lea County is facing, or your district is facing, and what will you do about them? We have 5 minutes for that.
Yes, ma'am. So we've heard this said multiple times this evening: infrastructure and roads, and that is one of the biggest obstacles or biggest things that we need to address. Number two, or not necessarily in any specific number order, but the next thing is our emergency medical services, our first responders, police officers. I think we really need to work on them. And number three is our high-risk population services, such as things like our homeless, our veterans, our mental health services that we offer here in Lea County. To talk specifically about infrastructure and roads, Lea County has worked pretty hard, pretty aggressively over the last several years. The Lea County has approximately just shy of 2,500 miles, 2,500 miles of roads, both paved and caliche. And I know they really did just put in the budget for this next year $56 million. And that's fantastic. But we have to work more aggressively with our state partners and be able to get up there and make them understand that we're the hub of the state's economy. And when less than 20% of every tax dollar we send comes back to us, that's just unacceptable. We need to work aggressively. We need to be advocates for Lea County. We need to be good representatives of our community. And basically suggest that we demand more, and we need to be in their ear. We need to think outside the box to get these things accomplished. Second, first responders. I started my career 32 years ago as a firefighter paramedic in Las Vegas, Nevada. I then worked on an air medical crew as a flight nurse, flight paramedic, and now in family medicine. Our services here are definitely in need. We work very hard with our police departments, sheriff's departments, and EMS services. However, our county is the hub of the state's economy. Not only do we have a populous county, but we have a transient population. Well, when you have a transient population, and what I mean by that are people that are coming in and out of the county to work in our oil and gas industry. A lot of them don't live here, but they still tax the resources that we have. Unfortunately, when you have a transient population, our crime is going to go up. Our need for emergency medical services is going to go up. So therefore, I think we need to, as a county, we can do better in providing resources. We can do better in providing funding to get our sheriff's department funded, our county resources for EMS funded, which is our emergency medical services, our paramedics, EMTs, and firefighters. I think we can do that. And we have to do that by thinking outside the box. And looking for funding that maybe is not traditional, looking outside for other partnerships and grant opportunities. We can get that. We can get the funding. We just have to really think outside the box. Lastly is our high-risk population services. I'm passionate about this because I work in family medicine, and I see it every day. I have patients that we can't get mental health services. They're in a mental health crisis, and we can't get them evaluated in a timely fashion. Our senior citizens that are in need, we don't have the resources there we don't have the specialists, things of that nature. What we need to do is we need to think outside that box again and start recruiting, start being very proactive in going out to these state colleges, universities, our surrounding areas, and headhunting these people and bringing them into our community, explaining the opportunities that we have here. And we need to be competitive, and we need to be ruthless about it, because that's how we get ahead. We get out there, we aggressively research these folks, we aggressively research the different opportunities, the specialists out there, and we compete with the other surrounding communities, and we bring those people to our community to serve our population.
All right, thank you, sir. Now we'll ask, what in your personality or experience makes you the better person for this job, and what in your opponent's personality or experience, in your opinion, makes him less qualified?
Right.
You have 3 minutes to respond.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm going to start with the back end of that question first. I don't believe that my opponent, his personality or experiences, makes him less qualified. I don't believe in that at all. I believe that he became a county commissioner for good. I think his heart is good. I think that's where his focus is good. I think our experiences are just different. I don't think one is better than the other. In that sense, I'm a horrible politician, because I will never go there. I will never go there. However, my experience, I've been fortunate. I've been on the Jal Public School Board of Education for 13 years, 12 of those as president of the Board of Education. By the time my tenure's up in 2025, end of 2025, we will have put $130 million into the Jal Public Schools, and we are debt-free. Well, a lot of SB 9 money, that's fantastic. However, it also took us a lot of time, a lot of diligence, a lot of outside of the box thinking to make sure we were financially responsible, that we were able to develop our school district and create a footprint that if oil and gas stopped tomorrow, that we could still afford, right? We've brought in secondary teachers. We brought in programs, all of these things by doing what I was just mentioning previously as far as recruiting, thinking outside the box. So I believe that experience as a 13-year school board member, 12 years as the president, although we have to work as a team, I'm very proud of my leadership and our ability to get our district to the point in which it is today. 13 years ago, we weren't there, but we're there today. So I believe that experience is going to allow me, if given the opportunity, to be a very successful county commissioner.
All right, about 30 seconds left. Anything to add to that, or anything you'd like to say?
I don't think so. Outside of me, I do some work on a large trust in JAL, which is a private trust, which is different because it's private money. It's not taxpayer-based money. That's a very enjoyable experience as well. It's very different than taxpayer money. I've learned a lot. But no, that's it. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. And let's move on to the next question. Share the one thing that you most want to accomplish in office, and you've got 2 minutes on that one, please.
Yes, ma'am. As I said, my background right now being in family medicine, this is a tough question because I understand that roads and infrastructure are a big priority in our county. But one thing that I would be exceptionally proud of, if given the opportunity to represent Lea County as a county commissioner, if I could get this accomplished, would be the improvement of our high-risk population services. To watch families suffer with mental health in their family, to watch families and patients manage addiction, to watch senior citizens not have resources available to them after they've worked so hard their whole life is heartbreaking. And I know that if we become outside of the box thinkers, let's use a little bit of common sense as well, and just solve the problem. Just work the problem. I know we can make a difference in these high-risk populations. So if given the opportunity, I would really want to accomplish that for Lea County. I would want to bring in those services such as mental health counseling, addiction counseling, social services for our children and senior citizens, and our veterans. I really would like to see that done, and I would sleep much better at night knowing that I was able to contribute to that.
All right, thank you, sir. And now, if you'll share something about yourself that voters probably don't know and maybe find surprising.
All right, so this is the toughest question out of this whole thing, let me just tell you. And it's really silly, but I'm gonna say it. So I read, and I'm an academic guy, but my favorite topic to read is post-apocalyptic fiction. And I know that sounds crazy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't want to be labeled as a conspiracy theorist. But if I ever win the Powerball, I'm going to build a bunker. Just because I think it would be neat to have a bunker. I don't know. Yeah, so outside of that, I'm a pretty normal guy. And other than silly and a little bit embarrassed about admitting that on camera, you'll probably find it surprising.
Thank you very much. And finally, what is the one word that best describes you or represents who you are? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. Thank you very much, Pat.
What happened?
Sorry, I skipped ahead.
Okay.
2 minutes to say anything you want. 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Pat, I don't appreciate you make me talk another 2 minutes. Anything I'd like to say. If given the opportunity to represent Lea County and District 5, I want you to know that I'll be responsible and transparent. I implore you to get out and vote. As an American, as a patriot, as a son of a U.S. Marine veteran, I understand what it's taken for us to get to this point to allow us to vote, and I really want you to get out there and do that. I hope I get a vote or two, but that being said, I can promise you that I'll represent you fiercely and strongly. I'll be transparent, and I would just appreciate your vote if you feel I'm the candidate that supports what you believe.
Okay, thank you. A little less than a minute. Anything to add?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and now, I skipped ahead. What is the one word that best describes you or represents who you are?
I'm committed. That's the word that represents me the best, is committed. When given a task, I don't look to be told how we can't do it or what obstacles we're going to have put in front of us. I look to find solutions. Let's work the problem. There's very little out there that can be placed in front of us that is truly impossible. So by being committed and with that commitment to get things accomplished, I tend to persevere in what I try to do. And it takes a team. It takes a team to get these things done. So I'm a committed individual, and then I'm a committed team player.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Candidate Jim Goss and James M. Goss on
On the ballot,
yeah, on the
right.
ballot, right? And so thank you very much. And now we will turn our attention to the final speaker this evening, the final candidate in this evening. So thank you very much. And you've had to be the most patient. But we will get started with Pat Sims and ask you to tell us who you are and why you want to keep this job. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Hi, thank y'all for having me. I'm Pat Sims. I am a local rancher and small businessman. I'm a Christian and active in the Eunice Methodist Church. I live with Tanya Bruce. Between us, we have 4 adult sons, 2 in South Carolina and 2 in Eunice, and we have 1 grandson. I have been commissioner for 4 years now, and I want to keep this job because I've got some stuff I'm doing that I want to see through to the end, and you know, I kind of feel like I've gotten a little bit good at this. Not ready to quit just yet, but I have no political ambitions other than winning this election, and after this, we'll retire and probably be full of New Mexico politics.
All right, thank you. And I apologize for the inefforts. About 45 seconds left. Pat, anything you would like to add about who you are and why you want to keep the job? All right, we'll move on and ask you to tell us what are the 3 biggest issues Lee County or your district is facing, and what will you do about them? 5 minutes.
I want to go with the 3 biggest issues in our district. And what will I do about them? Not in any particular order, but law enforcement, roads, and oil and gas. You know, the big deal in our district is we don't see very many sheriff's deputies. Hobbs sees all our things like, you know, you see a bunch of sheriff deputies driving around in Hobbs and between Hobbs and Lovington. And I know a lot of them are serving warrants and doing county projects, but the city of Hobbs, if they've got their police force at half manpower, they're lucky right now. And, you know, I kind of feel like at this point they're starting to take advantage. You know, Thursday we're giving them a pretty hefty check for housing and to bring in affordable housing, bring in more people. And they did not say anything about bringing in more, how they're going to get more law enforcement. And I know the Hobbs police chief. I like him. I don't know what the deal is, but we have been trying to hire more deputies, and we're trying to use some other equipment. You know, I've done everything but get obnoxious with the state police department. Has anybody seen a state police car on 128? You know, and crime is getting bad there. I had some stuff stolen from my place in Eunice recently, but we need to hire more officers, and those are hard to come by right now. We struggle with the liability insurance. Santa Fe is not doing us any good. Every time they meet, it seems like they hamstring counties a little more. But moving to roads, We've talked, we've allocated 58 million more, or 38 million more. And I think our total budget on our county road department is 89 million for next year. Would you say 2,500 miles of roads in Lea County? Well, I am responsible, or I have a say in 1,300 of those miles. And, we're trying to chip seal roads, and we're having problems there. That increases speed and danger, and danger to livestock and other humans. But our state roads, we dropped the ball with this Clean Fuel Act. I need to check on this, but I believe that they all the revenue from this goes to environmental green energy or whatever. Well, it needs to go to roads. I think any fuel tax should be specifically for road repair and maintenance. I'm getting short on time a little bit.
Over a minute.
Let's move on to oil and gas.
Okay.
When I say oil and gas, I'm talking about the money from oil and gas, and I want to kind of lump in HB6 on this. The county has had to step up and kind of subsidize our local municipalities, and Jal was really about the only town that's anywhere close to financially responsible or self-supporting. But it seems like Santa Fe is doing everything they can to dissuade oil and gas companies from coming in from Oklahoma and Texas. And I think we need to step up and maybe court them a little more and take advantage of them in ways. They're looking to spend money here. We need to tap into that. But we survive on oil and gas. And I also think that our district is to Lea County as Lea County is to New Mexico.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And now, if you can tell us what in your personality or experience makes you the better person for this job, and what in your opponent's personality or experience, or in your opinion, makes him less qualified. And you have 3 minutes for that.
I really like Jim's answer. And first of all, I want to say that I have the utmost respect for my opponent, and that I truly believe no matter who wins the race on Tuesday, that our district's voters are going to be winners. And, crap, it's kind of hard this is the hardest question for me. I do have 4 years head start of experience on being a county commissioner. I think that gives me a little edge, but I think Jim would catch up quick. I have had a business here that's agriculture and oil and gas. I'm a small oil independent operator, sell frack water. I am part of the problem. But I think the contacts and the education that I've gotten in those might give me a little edge. And I believe that being self-employed allows me to be a little more flexible. This is a tough question. That's all I want to say about it.
All right, then. A minute 40 left. You're still begging off of. Okay. All right, we will move on. Share the one thing that you most want to accomplish in office. 2 minutes for that.
My top priority as a commissioner is to leave the county in better shape than it was when I came in. And I need another 4 years. I have recently, and I didn't even think about this when I first ran, but I'm kind of an outlaw, and I'm sure my opponent can vouch for this. It's almost illegal to educate kids in school in the state of New Mexico nowadays. And I had heard about our kids that were in the first, second, and third grade during the COVID lockdown. They're even further behind in their reading than the rest of the 50% students in New Mexico. And I have teamed up with Maddox Foundation on this AIM program that's a lot about the Mississippi Miracle. And I've teamed up with a Lovington superintendent. We're paying the salary for a year for a reading tutor for kindergarten. And I'm really getting a passion for teaching kids to read or doing something. And I will admit that I've been kind of dared into it by our governor and our state legislatures, they told me I couldn't do it. That's about all I have.
Okay, all right then. And if you'll tell us, share something about yourself that voters probably don't know and might find surprising. 1 minute.
Everybody thinks that I skip off down to Mexico. I think everybody knows I have a professional international motorsports team, and we race the Baja 1000 and stuff. But everybody's only half right that I go down to Mexico all the time. We have a 3-year-old autistic special needs grandson in South Carolina, and he is quickly taking charge.
All right. Anything to add to that? 30 seconds?
I'm good.
Nope. All right then. And in 2 minutes, you have your 2 minutes to say anything you'd like. 2 minutes, sir.
That question on the 3 biggest issues, that changes with the direction of the wind. We have a bunch of really serious issues. Mental health is one of them, and one that's critical to everybody, and I don't think they really realize how critical it is our water supplies. Our wells are they're not going dry, but the water table is lowering, and to make all this money with the oil field now, it's requiring mega volumes of water. We need to be worrying about it. I think most of our municipalities are struggling with their city water systems. They need work, or they're just barely catching up. I know JAL is working on their wells and their infrastructure. Eunice is squabbling with the state over supplying water to oil companies for their pipes going across state land. And everybody is sweating water right now. It's a big deal. We need to be worrying more about the water.
30 more seconds.
I'm
Anything
good.
else? You're done. All right then. And now, what is the one word that best describes you or represents who you are?
Tanya said to say benevolent.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Tanya said to say benevolent.
Benevolent. All right.
Okay.
That's benevolent, and that's the last word. As it happens, you get the last word, Pat
Cool.
Sims.
I
How's
started to steal McCutcheon's electable.
that? All right. And thank you very much,
Thank
of
you.
course, to James M. Goss and Pat Sims, candidates for Lea County Commission District 5. And with that, we come to a close of our candidate forum. And I have to say, after listening to everyone, I think we're in good hands, because I'm truly amazed at how passionate, how educated, how
qualified that I find all of these candidates who have come forward, and how brave to serve in the first place, and for those who haven't been elected or served, to put yourself out there and to ask for votes and to go put yourself up for public service and in an election. So thank you to all the candidates, most of who have left us tonight. And we want to wrap up now and say thank you very much again to the Boys and Girls Club. And thank you for watching and listening. And again, thanks to the candidates, certainly Mr. Sims and Mr. Goss. You happen to be the last, but not the least of them, okay?
Y'all save the best for last.
Save the best for last, right.
And thank you very much. Again, thank you to TJ Miracle for working very hard on the technical part of this program before, during, and after. And thank you very much. I'm Dawn Morgan, and on behalf of Noalmark Digital Services and all of our family of radio stations, we thank you for watching and listening. This has been our candidate forum for primary election 2024. Thank you and good evening.